What would you do if the person you trusted most turned out to be the one you should fear the most? How could an ordinary school run or routine so familiar and safe become the setting for an unthinkable tragedy? What signs might you have missed? What truths remained hidden until it was far too late? Imagine beginning your day with the simple routine of driving your children to school, a moment filled with innocence and the promise of a new day. Now, envision that routine shattered in an instant by an unimaginable act of violence perpetrated by someone once trusted and loved. This is the harrowing reality of the Clarke family, a story that not only shocked a nation but exposed the terrifying depths of domestic violence hidden behind closed doors. Today, we'll uncover the tragic events that led to the devastating loss of Hannah Clarke and her 3 children, what happened behind the scenes of this family's life, and what warning signs were tragically overlooked. Housevil, true crime involving family. Every family has secrets, any family can cross the line. Hi, I'm Matt. Welcome to Housevil, where we explore the darkest stories of family secrets turned tragic. Today, we examine the devastating case of the Clarke family murders, a heart-wrenching story of love turned lethal, and the systemic failures that allowed such a tragedy to unfold. Hannah Clarke, born on September 8, 1988, grew up in Brisbane, Queensland, in a loving and supportive family. Her parents, Lloyd and Sue Clarke, often described her as a spirited and determined individual with a passion for helping others. A natural leader, Hannah gravitated toward health and fitness, eventually becoming a fitness instructor. Her strong work ethic and dedication to her craft earned her the respect of her peers and clients alike. Outside of work, Hannah's greatest joy came from being a mother. She adored her 3 young children named Aaliyah, Layana, and Trey, and was fiercely protective of their happiness and well-being. In 2008, at the age of 19, Hannah met Rowan Baxter, a former New Zealand rugby league player turned personal trainer. 11 years her senior, Baxter exuded charm and confidence, quickly winning Hannah's affection. Friends and family initially saw him as charismatic and outgoing, and their relationship moved rapidly. By 2011, Baxter proposed, and the couple married in 2012 in Kingscliff, New South Wales. The early years of their marriage appeared idyllic, with social media posts depicting a picture-perfect family. However, behind the carefully curated facade, troubling dynamics were beginning to emerge. Over time, Baxter's behavior became increasingly controlling. He exhibited a pattern of possessiveness and manipulation, isolating Hannah from her friends and family. This isolation is a hallmark of abusive relationships, as it weakens the victim's support network and increases their dependency on the abuser. Baxter's charm was reserved for public settings. In private, he subjected Hannah to a relentless cycle of emotional, physical, sexual, and financial abuse. According to reports, Baxter's need for control extended to every aspect of their lives. He dictated how Hannah dressed, criticized her parenting, and even monitored her social interactions. Friends noticed subtle changes in Hannah's demeanor. Her once vibrant personality grew subdued, and her laughter became less frequent. Despite these warning signs, Hannah rarely spoke openly about the abuse. Like many victims of domestic violence, she likely grappled with feelings of fear, shame, and the hope that Baxter might change. The abuse escalated as the years passed. Baxter's temper was volatile, and he often used their children as leverage to maintain control over Hannah. Friends later revealed that he would berate her in front of the kids, undermining her authority and instilling fear. He also exerted financial control, restricting her access to money and making it difficult for her to leave the relationship. One particularly harrowing aspect of the abuse was its deeply personal nature. Baxter's manipulation extended to intimate areas of their relationship, using coercion to assert dominance. This form of abuse, often overlooked in discussions about domestic violence, left lasting scars on Hannah's psyche. Despite these challenges, Hannah remained resolute in her love for her children. They were her anchor, and she poured her energy into creating a nurturing environment for them, even under the shadow of Baxter's tyranny. Family and friends grew increasingly concerned about Hannah's well-being. Her parents, Lloyd and Sue, were particularly alarmed by Baxter's behavior. They described him as controlling and unpredictable, often imposing his will on their daughter without regard for her feelings. Hannah's brother, Nathaniel, also observed the strain the relationship placed on her, but like many loved ones of abuse victims, he felt powerless to intervene fully. In late 2019, the situation reached a critical point. Baxter's aggression culminated in a chilling incident on Boxing Day when he abducted their middle child, Leanna. This act of desperation underscored the lengths he was willing to go to retain control over his family. The abduction prompted legal action, resulting in a domestic violence order DVO against Baxter. However, legal interventions alone could not address the underlying danger he posed. Hannah's decision to separate from Baxter was an act of immense courage. Leaving an abusive partner is one of the most dangerous times for victims, as abusers often escalate their behavior in response to perceived loss of control. Despite the risks, Hannah took steps to rebuild her life. She moved in with her parents, sought legal protection, and began to reclaim her independence. During this time, she legally reverted to her maiden name, a symbolic declaration of her autonomy. While Hannah was making strides toward a brighter future, Baxter's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He refused to accept the end of their relationship, viewing Hannah's newfound independence as a direct threat to his power. Legal battles over custody arrangements added to the tension, with Baxter resisting mediation and rejecting consent orders that would grant him substantial access to the children. His inability to relinquish control set the stage for the devastating events that would soon unfold. Hannah's story is a poignant reminder of the insidious nature of domestic violence. It is not always visible to outsiders, and victims often carry the burden alone, fearing judgment or retribution. Despite the challenges she faced, Hannah remained a devoted mother and a beacon of strength for her children. Her resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship continues to inspire those who hear her story. The situation between Hannah Clarke and Rowan Baxter reached a boiling point in late 2019, highlighting the dangerous volatility of their relationship. On December 26, 2019, Boxing Day, Baxter committed a brazen and alarming act of defiance. He kidnapped their 4-year-old daughter, Leanna. The abduction occurred during a custody dispute, with Baxter taking Leanna without Hannah's consent and refusing to return her. This traumatic event became a critical turning point, prompting Hannah to seek urgent legal protection. Hannah reported the kidnapping to authorities, leading to the issuance of a domestic violence order DVO against Baxter. The DVO aimed to restrict his access to Hannah and the children, providing a layer of legal protection that was supposed to create a safer environment for them. However, like many victims of domestic violence, Hannah quickly realized the limitations of such measures. A DVO can be a powerful tool, but it is ultimately only as effective as the willingness of the abuser to comply, and Baxter showed no intention of respecting the boundaries it imposed. In the weeks following the DVO, legal battles over custody arrangements began to unfold. Baxter resisted every step of the process, rejecting mediation efforts and refusing to sign consent orders. His defiance created an environment of ongoing tension and uncertainty for Hannah, who was doing everything in her power to protect her children while navigating a complex and often frustrating legal system. The emotional toll of these proceedings was immense, but Hannah remained steadfast in her determination to shield her children from harm. In January 2020, despite the DVO, the court temporarily varied Baxter's access to the children, allowing limited supervised visits. This decision was devastating for Hannah, as it meant continued interactions with a man who had demonstrated a complete disregard for her safety and that of her children. These court-ordered visits only emboldened Baxter, giving him opportunities to assert his control and prolonging the psychological warfare he waged against Hannah. However, Baxter's inability to adhere to the conditions of the DVO soon led to further complications. In early February 2020, he breached the terms of the order, displaying once again his blatant disregard for legal boundaries. The breach prompted the revocation of his access to the children, a decision that further enraged him. For an abuser like Baxter, control is everything. Losing legal access to his children and having Hannah out of his grasp intensified his anger and resentment, setting the stage for an explosive escalation. Meanwhile, Hannah was courageously rebuilding her life. After separating from Baxter, she moved in with her parents, Lloyd and Sue Clarke, who provided her with unwavering support during this tumultuous time. The Clarke household became a sanctuary for Hannah and her children, a place where they could begin to heal and reclaim a sense of normalcy. Hannah also took steps to establish her independence, legally reverting to her maiden name as a symbolic act of reclaiming her identity. Hannah's focus was on creating a safe, loving environment for her children. She sought therapy and support networks, determined to break free from the trauma Baxter had inflicted. Her strength and resilience during this period were remarkable, as she navigated the challenges of single parenthood while under the constant threat of Baxter's unpredictable behavior. Baxter, however, refused to let go. He continued to stalk and harass Hannah, often showing up uninvited at public places or sending manipulative messages. His obsession with regaining control over her life became all-consuming. In conversations with friends and family, he expressed his bitterness and anger, blaming Hannah for his problems rather than taking accountability for his actions. Baxter's fixation on control and his growing desperation made him increasingly dangerous. Friends and family of the Clarke family later revealed chilling details about Baxter's behavior in the weeks leading up to the tragedy. He reportedly spoke about wanting to punish Hannah for leaving him, and his erratic actions alarmed those around him. Despite these warning signs, Baxter's ability to act on his threats was underestimated, a tragic miscalculation that would have devastating consequences. As the legal and emotional battles dragged on, Hannah remained focused on her children, pouring all her energy into ensuring their happiness and safety. She participated in community events, reconnected with friends, and began to rediscover herself. Her efforts were a testament to her incredible strength, but they also highlighted the immense challenges victims of domestic violence face when trying to rebuild their lives. Unbeknownst to Hannah, Baxter was carefully plotting his next move. His anger, frustration, and sense of powerlessness reached a tipping point. For abusers like Baxter, losing control is often the ultimate trigger, driving them to commit acts of violence that they believe will restore their dominance. The events that followed would not only devastate the Clarke family, but also shock an entire nation, shining a harsh light on the pervasive issue of domestic violence and the urgent need for systemic change. The morning of February 19, 2020 began like any other for Hannah Clarke. She was performing a simple, everyday task, driving her 3 beloved children, Aaliyah, 6 Leanna, 4 and Trey, 3 to school. The routine, which should have been safe and unremarkable, became the setting for one of the most horrifying domestic violence tragedies Australia has ever witnessed. Unbeknownst to Hannah, Rowan Baxter had been lying in wait. His relentless obsession and inability to accept the end of their relationship had reached a catastrophic breaking point. That morning, in a premeditated act of unfathomable cruelty, Baxter ambushed Hannah's car as it traveled through Raven Street in Camp Hill, Queensland. Witness accounts and subsequent investigations revealed that Baxter had armed himself with a jerry can of petrol and a knife, determined to enact the ultimate act of control and destruction. As Hannah stopped her vehicle, Baxter forced his way inside. Within moments, he doused the interior with petrol, igniting it in a horrifying blaze. The car was engulfed in flames almost instantaneously, trapping Aaliyah, Leanna, and Trey inside. The intensity of the fire was so severe that it could be seen from blocks away, and thick plumes of black smoke filled the air. Witnesses at the scene were horrified by the sudden explosion, rushing to assist as screams and cries for help rang out. Despite the inferno, Hannah, exhibiting extraordinary strength and courage, managed to escape the vehicle. Engulfed in flames, she stumbled to the ground, her body covered in burns so severe they would later be assessed as covering 97% of her body. As bystanders rushed to her aid, Hannah uttered the words that would later reveal the chilling truth: "You poured petrol on me." Desperate to save the children, some onlookers attempted to extinguish the flames and rescue them from the vehicle. However, Baxter, in a final act of control and cruelty, prevented anyone from intervening. He brandished a knife to keep bystanders at bay, and then turned the weapon on himself, stabbing himself to death at the scene. His death marked the culmination of his calculated plan, leaving no chance for accountability or justice to be served. Emergency services arrived swiftly, but the scene was one of unimaginable devastation. Firefighters worked tirelessly to extinguish the blaze, but it was too late to save Aaliyah, Laya, Leanna, and Trey. The 3 young children, full of life and innocence, perished in the inferno. The sheer magnitude of the tragedy left first responders, witnesses, and the entire community in shock. Hannah was rushed to the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital, where medical teams fought to save her life. Despite their efforts, the severity of her injuries was insurmountable. Hannah's burns were so extensive that even advanced medical care could not reverse the damage. She passed away that evening, surrounded by her devastated family, who were left grappling with the incomprehensible loss of their daughter and grandchildren. The aftermath of the attack left the Camp Hill community and the nation reeling. The senselessness and brutality of Baxter's actions shocked even seasoned investigators and domestic violence experts, The calculated nature of his attack, planning the ambush, bringing the necessary materials, and ensuring maximum devastation underscored the extreme danger posed by perpetrators of domestic violence when they feel their control slipping away. Hannah's final moments were a testament to her resilience and love for her children. Even as she succumbed to her injuries, her words provided crucial evidence that illuminated the full extent of Baxter's actions. Her bravery in those moments ensured that the truth of what had occurred would be known, even if justice for her and her children could never be fully achieved. This tragic climax was not just a horrifying end to Hannah's story, but also a stark reminder of the deadly consequences of domestic violence. It highlighted the devastating intersection of control, obsession, and violence that often accompanies abusive relationships. For many, the Clarke family murders became a rallying cry for greater awareness, prevention, and intervention to protect victims and prevent future tragedies. The story of the Clarke family is a devastating reminder of the lethal potential of domestic violence and the importance of vigilance, support, and systemic change. Hannah Clarke's bravery in the face of escalating abuse and her family's dedication to her memory highlight the urgent need for society to address and prevent domestic violence. As we reflect on this tragedy, let it reinforce our commitment to protecting the vulnerable and holding perpetrators accountable. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to subscribe to Housevil for more stories that reveal the dark truths behind family bonds. Share your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.